Hello and welcome to the video, and welcome to the final part of my blind discussion of all 14 of the Ian Fleming 007 books. So today we're going to be having a discussion about Octopussy and the Living Daylights. So as usual, let me just make sure I'll do the front again just to be safe. I think the middle, do the inside again, make sure. Yeah, cool. So Octopussy and the Living Daylights is the second of two short story compilations or collections, whatever you want to call it, in the James Bond series. This one is made up of 4 short stories. So you have Octopussy, Property of a Lady, The Living Daylights, and 007 in New York. I enjoyed reading all 4 of these short stories. Same as with all, there's a varying degree. And in terms of how accurate or how well they are put into film, Octopussy and Property of a Lady are... Well, Octopussy is essentially the name of the movie Octopussy, and Property of a Lady is a part of Octopussy as well. The Living Daylights is the opening, say, 5-6 minutes of The Living Daylights. And 007 in New York, as far as I'm aware, that book, or that short story, isn't adapted. Sorry, my head's feeling a bit weird at the moment. Isn't adapted into any movie. It was not, no part of it was put into a movie. At least I couldn't... nothing jumped out. It didn't, I couldn't identify it at least. So I'm going to go through all 4 of the short stories. Then I'm going to go through my ratings for each of the 4 stories, and then my rating for the book as a whole. And then basically that will be the series done. I will be doing one final video, but it's not the same sort of thing, but it'll be ranking all 14 of the books, showing you my order for them from number 14, when I consider, I suppose, the worst. But I don't think any of the Bond books are bad. I think all of them are worth a reread and a re-evaluation at some point, up to what I think is the best Bond book. But basically, we're going to start off, obviously, by doing it sensibly, in order. We're going to go from short story 1 through to short story 4. And Octopussy, in terms of the actual book compared to the movie, Octopussy is the only thing that's the same. In terms of the name and the fact that it's related in some manner to an octopus. So in the book version of the story, Octopussy is the name of an octopus that a former British... I can't remember if he's Secret Service or MI5, but he's part of the, the British protection sort of war machine, or whatever you want to call it, part of one of the organisations. He could be Scotland Yard, he could have been part of the military in some form, but I'm sure he was part of the Secret Service in some capacity, just not a 00 agent. And basically it's the final couple of hours, final day or two maybe, of his life. During the war, he committed a massive crime. He murdered a man and took, I think it's 2 bars of Nazi gold. And then the story is Bond has come to him to let him know, your time is up. We know what you did. You can lie if you want, but we already have the story, so we're just wanting you basically to cross the T's and dot the I's. If you lie, it's not going to make a difference because we already know what actually happened. Now we got the whole story. And then you get a flashback, or... Well, yeah, I suppose flashback is the best way to put it. You get this guy kind of reminisce or having, thinking back on what he did and how we got to this point. And as I say, during the war, he discovered somehow the gold, went to this man who was a local to guide him to where the gold was. He killed him. hid his body on a glacier, and obviously this glacier then melted enough for his body to be discovered in the current time. Hid the gold. Where the war ended, he came back home to the UK. He went back to that country. I think it was Germany or France. It was one of the two. Like on one more mission sort of thing, so he could get himself to go over there, and then eventually got the gold back to the UK, and then moved to Jamaica with his wife, and had a fairly comfortable life up until that point. It turns out as well that this man that he killed was actually a friend of Bond's, so Bond is doubly angry with this guy and what he did. Sorry. Sorry, I thought my phone crashed then, because I can't really see my screen, so I can't tell very well if it's all going on fine, and because I wasn't doing any movement other than my mouth, I thought it stopped. Working. What's it called? I forgot what it was now. So yeah, Bond came to him, told him that basically, you have until tomorrow, you have a couple of hours or something, and the local police will come and arrest you, and then proceedings will go as they are. And in this guy's final time, then he decides there's no point trying to run away, so he decides he's going to go for one more swim. He's been a sort of caretaker in a way for the local wildlife in the water. He likes to swim around amongst like the communities under there. Like he likes to go see the fish. Obviously he's got the octopus, so he's got Octopussy. The only ones he doesn't like are the scorpion fish, which are very poisonous. And like the climax to the story is basically he decides he wants to conduct an experiment by which he feeds a scorpion fish to Octopussy to see if Octopussy will firstly accept it and eat it, because obviously it's poisonous. So he wants to know, will Octopussy identify that this is a poisonous creature and a hazard to my health, or potentially a risk to my life? And if it doesn't identify that, will it survive eating the fish? But what actually happens is he finds the scorpion fish, he manages to spear it with his harpoon or wherever he's holding, but in the process he gets stabbed himself. So now he is being poisoned to death, basically. He goes to Octopussy to give him the fish in his last moments, just to hopefully get the answer to his question. And then to his surprise, Octopussy actually identifies him as obviously being weak and a vulnerable creature, and attacks and kills him. The police arrive then, as I said earlier, whether it's the next day or a couple of hours later. They find him dead, they rule it a suicide, and that's basically the end of the story. So it's much more depressing of a story, I guess, compared to the movie. Very, very different, still good. I really enjoyed reading the story. I do like the fact that the short stories are generally very different to Bond's actual full novel adventures, and it's a really good way to mix things up a bit. So the next one then is The Property of a Lady. Is it Property or The Property? I think it's The Property of a Lady. Let's have a look. Yeah, so The Property of a Lady. And this is just basically the Fabergé egg story from Octopussy. Not one-to-one, but it's fairly close. So the only real difference is it's not connected to a big smuggling ring, and the person who is benefiting from the egg is a woman who believed herself to be a double agent for the Russians in the British Secret Service, but she got found out, I think, very early on, so she was just feeding the Russians useless information, because the British, cipher, because she worked for the cipher team. So she was basically, I can't remember if she was being censored afterwards, or if she was being fed crap information and then she was passing that on, but it was one or the other. And then basically the story for this one is they find out there is a rare emerald Fabergé egg being sold at this auction, and it's in this woman's name. She inherited it and all this business, and they created a fake sort of believable timeline for how she came into acquiring this egg. But obviously through the course of the story, they basically want to determine, which they believe is the case, this woman is a Russian spy. This egg is her big payout for years of service to the Russians. And then there'll be someone at the auction house who is artificially boosting up the value or the selling price for this egg, so it hits the agreed upon price for her, which I think was like 120 or 140,000, which obviously bearing in mind back in 1960 or 1950s, 1960s, around about then the books are set. I think it's 1950s actually, but I could be wrong, could be 60s. That 140k would be an absolute insane amount of money. Not that that's not an insane amount now, to be fair, it's a load of money by today's standards, but it is an absolute fortune by those standards. Actually, I haven't checked what it would actually be. Same with the gold bars. I didn't actually check what they would have been worth in today's money, which I usually do. I did that for the gold bar and Goldfinger. I don't remember what it is now. I think I might have said it in the video when I recorded that video. But yeah, so basically, so they have the discussion with the man who goes to the auction with Bond. It's a bit more of that in the book, explaining the history of the Fabergé eggs, explaining the process in the in the auction house, like sort of giving Bond a rough idea of how much he can help Bond, because he has his own job to do as well for a client, which is just bidding for certain things, the Fabergé egg being one of them. And at the time of the auction itself, Bond in the book is far more serious in his professionalism, whereas in the movie he's a lot more like cocky about it. Obviously he swaps the egg, he places a bid on the egg as well, which he was expressly forbidden from doing, I believe, in the book, and he did not go against his orders there. At the auction house then, it's a lot more chill of a story. It's Bond sat at a chair looking around the room, trying to see who is the person that works for the Russians, basically. And like I said, it's very low stakes, but it is still an interesting story. I enjoyed it. The climax to that one is they eventually discover the guy who is like the Russian spy. They catch him on the very final bid that he does before he hits the desired amount. They follow him out of the auction house and tail him as he's driving off, and they conclude if he goes to the Russian embassy or the Soviet embassy, then he is a spy, and all of the all their dots have been connected, and then they will proceed with what happens next. And he does indeed go to the Soviet embassy. Bond has like his sinister smile and tells the guy who's driving to take him home. So again, I enjoyed reading the story. It's a lot lower stakes than a load of the Bond stories. Not the lowest stake, I would say, because that's probably Quantum of Solace, because that was just I think like a president or a mayor or some government official having a conversation with Bond and just telling him about a man and his wife and how they got together and their horribly toxic relationship with one another. So there are Bond stories that are much lower in stakes, but this is definitely on the lower end. Still enjoyable, and it all depends on what sort of thing you enjoy or what that you want to read. But it's definitely a fun one if you want to just a change of pace and to mix it up a little bit. The next story is The Living Daylights. In terms of how accurate it's portrayed in the movie, as I said, it's only about the first 6 minutes of the movie. After the intro scene with like the training montage, not a montage, but the training session between the double O's and different parts of the Secret Service, and then the opening song. After that, like 6 minutes after that point, is all of this The Living Daylights story, but it's not the entire story that's covered. So the actual book version it starts off with Bond training, like practicing with his sniper, brushing up on his skills a little bit, and then go into, I think it's Berlin that they go to, and then like staking out this concert hall where someone is going to be fleeing, and Bond is there to take out a Russian hitman who is there to kill this man as he's fleeing. And that's the part that's covered in the movie, but you don't get the training section at the start. But in terms of that part, Bond is basically, he's gone to a shooting range. He's practicing at, I believe, 500 meters at I think like 7 or 8 o'clock in the night. So he's got lower visibility, very far distance. He's using a modified sniper that Q Branch has given him, which I believe they say is an American gun. I can't remember why they say the Americans use it, but it's an American rifle that Q Branch has modified further, I believe. And he's also firing at a target which is about a third of the regulation size or half of the regulation size. I don't recall if they say Bond was aware of that part, but obviously he knew how far he was shooting, because he needed to kill a Russian assassin before that assassin killed the person that Bond is trying to protect. So I really liked the training part at the start, because I don't know, there's something about those sort of scenes I always find interesting, and I do enjoy sort of living through Bond in the books when he does things that I have no interest in really in real life, like with the gambling, the drinking and smoking, and also a load of this, like the shooting related things, because I'm not a gun guy at all. But reading, the Bond stories, I do get a kick out of that sort of stuff. So it's always good when you get a really fun, a really interesting actual scene of that type. And it kind of reminded me of the golf scene for some reason, just like from Goldfinger, just low stakes, just Bond, just being Bond. But in this case, it's not against another person, He's just practicing, he's doing fantastic, the guy is massively impressed. He wants to have a drink with Bond to figure out how this guy just turned up and just shot as insanely as he did. But Bond has a mission to go on, he has no time to waste, he has to go straight to, again, I think it's Berlin. I probably won't find the page, but go straight on to his mission. Living daylights, here's the shooting range. And another difference for the book version is when Bond is actually on the job, the guy that he's doing the job with, is it Major Saunders, I think? I'll try and find his name and keep talking now. But when he's doing his mission with Major Saunders, in the book, he's a bit of a dick. In the movie, sorry, he's a bit of a dick. He's really arsey with Bond when they try talking, when he's asking him about what's the job. Oh, is it Captain Sender, actually, not Major Saunders. I don't know who Major Saunders is. So it's Captain Sender. He's Welsh, which I love. I thought that was amazing. Does it say what he did? Can I find it here? Maybe it's on the previous page. Or at least he may not have been Welsh, I suppose. He's Captain Paul Sender, late of the Welsh Guards. So he's part of the Welsh Guards, so he must be Welsh. But yeah, the book version of that character is a lot nicer than Bond. He's on edge, he's stressed out, and he's anxious, but he's not just outwardly a dick. The conclusion is, essentially the same. The shooter appears. It turns out to be a blonde Russian cellist, same as the movie. Same also as the movie. Bond had noticed her, and she got his, affection, so to speak. In the book, he kind of creates a whole romance and more or less falls in love with her, just from watching her for 2 days as she's coming in and out of the concert hall. So it's a lot more passionately one-sided in the book as well. Sorry, I thought I turned off the recording then when I touched the headphone. The conclusion is the same, where Bond goes to shoot her and decides just to shoot in a way to disarm her rather than to outright kill her. Difference being, in the movie he does it because he believes that she's being tricked, or she is not really an assassin and she's a fall guy of some kind. But in the book, it's just because he just does not want to kill a woman. That's the only reason why. He in the books he's a lot more against killing in cold blood. So, and that shines through a lot. In particular with this one, like I say, he just adamantly refuses to kill her. He shoots her and then states that he scared the living daylights out of her. So you get the title in this one as well. Property of a Lady was what the auction, the Fabergé eggs sort of title is at the auction. I'm not sure what they call it. And obviously Octopussy was the Octopussy, the octopus. And then again, Sender even, gets a slightly better just portrayal, because in the movie, when he says about Bond missing a shot deliberately, he's angry, he's shouting at him, he's saying, oh, this is going to be in the report, you're going to get in trouble for this, and all that sort of jargon. But in the book, he asks him, it's just like, oh, so, why did you adjust your aim at the last second? And then Bond just does the whole, I didn't want to kill a woman, and all this sort of business. And he's like, oh, well, I do apologise, but I am going to have to put this in the report. So again, he's just a much nicer guy in the book, and I much prefer him, and he's Welsh, so yeah, I love to see that. And again, great story, very simple. It starts off like obviously very, very low stakes, just Bond on a shooting range, but then you do actually get a fairly good stakes in this one as well for a short story. It's about 30 pages, I believe, and you got a Russian assassin. Well, a couple of them actually. One main assassin and like 3 other people who are helping. Turns out to be the same person, as I said. And you got a target whose life is in danger. So a very good sort of compact Bond short story. Very much enjoyed that one. And then the last one, which I found very difficult to remember in retrospect, which is 007 in New York. Because basically, not a lot happens. The story is Bond goes to New York because there's a retired Secret Service worker. I believe it's just like a desk worker. She's someone, worked in the office all her life. She's retired now. She's moved to New York. But I can't remember if she's living in a house or like in an apartment with a few different, or at least one like Russian spy, or if she's just become friends with people and one of the people that she's friends with is a Russian spy. And this spy is about, like the jig is up, the net is closing in around them, and they want to get this girl, or this woman I should say, out of trouble because she's done nothing wrong, but she's at risk of just having her whole retirement years ruined because she's going to get tangled up with this woman who is a spy. So Bond goes there to try to sort that out for her. And all I remember, like I've quickly glanced through it again to try to remind myself. But all I remember is Bond talking about the food of New York and saying which food he likes, which foods he hates. I think same with drinks. He goes to a restaurant and he comments that like the food isn't that great, or certain aspects of the food isn't great. I'll even show you here. There's also a recipe for a scrambled egg. Scrambled eggs, I should say. Scrambled egg recipe in this Bond book, which I just thought was really funny. I'm going to try and find one more page as well, because I'll show it at the end of the video. So if you want to see it at the very end, stay tuned, I suppose. It's a bit of hypocrisy, and I found it very interesting when I seen it. Not interesting, but surprising. And like I say, I don't really remember a great deal of 007 in New York other than that. But from rereading the ending, he mentions about how he and this woman got in contact, agreed to meet at the Butterfly House of New York Zoo. Some sort of shenanigans and stress ensues. I think the woman considers committing suicide or something. And all because New York's zoo doesn't have a butterfly house, so they couldn't meet there. A reptile house, sorry. Sent her with tears and threats of suicide from the English girl, and it was all New York's fault. One can hardly credit the deficiency, but there is no reptile house at the Central Park Zoo. So, like I say, I can't really remember that story very well, because I guess it's a very short story, very, very low sort of stakes, and it's like 8 pages. So I read it in one very quick session, and then it was over. But at the time, at bare minimum, I did enjoy it quite a lot, and it reflects in the score. It's just long term, the score would probably be 1, maybe 1.5 lower than what it is currently. So the scores for these 4 short stories are: Octopussy is an 8.5, The Property of a Lady 8, The Living Daylights, sorry I forgot which one it was, is a 9, and 007 in New York again is an 8.5, because that's how I felt at the time. It hasn't stuck with me very well, sadly. But overall, my score for Octopussy and The Living Daylights as a book is an 8 out of 10. So the scores for the short stories, I'm a bit more lenient because, they are much shorter and their scores are boosted by at least like 1 compared to what they would be if I was comparing, the whole Bond novel. So a 9, if I had 4 short stories, all of a score of 9, the overall score would still be an 8 at most. And that's why, the score for the book and the score for the short stories don't quite link up. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you have enjoyed, and I hope you will check out my ranking for the 14 Bond books. And for anyone who wants to see the bit at the end, the part that surprised me, so I can't say it because I'm pretty sure I'll get in trouble for it, but you can see it by my finger, I hope, if the text is visible. We have CHINKS, so essentially a racial slur for Asian people, which was very, very surprising to me, because this book, I should have it in this one as well, so look, is it here? This book was written at a time when terms and attitudes which might be considered offensive by today's readers were commonplace. A number of updates have been made in this edition while keeping as close as possible to the original text and the period in which it is set. Which, if you look into... Oh God, I got back to the page instantly. But all of the changes made only... Sorry, I've done it again. I thought the thing ended. All of the changes have only been made towards one demographic of people, which is fine until you get like a racial slur for another group of people in a different book. And it's very weird. It's like, whoa, so you can't say anything mean. It's like the black people is the one that's very heavily altered and censored, but then Asians is completely fine. It's really odd that, I don't know if they just didn't care by the 14th book, they gave up doing it, or what, but it's a very, very weird decision. At least I think it is anyway. But yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the roundup, I suppose, or the wrap-up, where we rank all 14 books. Bye now.